Episode 12, boys. I am holding in my hand right here the last mod that we need to install in this car before we get a first start. And I don't know if you can tell by the smile on my face, but I am so freaking pumped, dude. This has been way too long building this car for no reason. I shouldn't say that. The reason is I was too busy doing other fun shit. We were driving the Subaru at the track. We were building some winter beaters. We were doing lots of other fun stuff. But I'm excited that we are finally at this point. And I guess I should tell you what the part that's in my hand is. We got here a good old DW 300C fuel pump. This is a drop-in, in-tank fuel pump. You can reuse the stock fuel hanger assembly. You don't have to modify anything. She'll just plop right in. So this is a pretty easy install. I'm gonna be showing you guys how to essentially install a high-flow fuel pump into your 8th gen Civic Si. You can put a fuel pump in these cars if you're just trying to do an NA build and make some good old naturally aspirated horsepower. Or if you wanna be like me and try and send a rod to the moon, you could do this. Slap a big old GT35 eBay turbo on a bone stock K20Z3 and send her to the moon. This idea sounds a lot more fun than the other one. The big question is this idea gonna work? This build has been a 13 episode build series on building a budget turbo Honda Civic. I've had a lot of you guys comment asking for a full cost breakdown video. At the end of the build, when she's off the dyno, it's on the road, we're banging gears, I will make one of those. We're not done spending money yet. Unfortunately, the car hasn't started yet. So why would I give you guys a cost breakdown video if it ain't running? But this is me promising you guys right now, I'm gonna make a cost breakdown video because the entire point behind this build series was what is the least amount of money that you can spend on an 8th gen Civic to properly turbo it. Now, properly is a loose term there because these are all like eBay and Amazon parts, but they're the right eBay and Amazon parts. Whether they're good quality or not, that's what we're gonna find out. Now, I'm not gonna ramble too much at the beginning of this video because if you guys are here for the fuel pump install video, you probably just wanna see a fuel pump install. But what I am gonna say is, last video, we installed the dopest gauge pod ever. It is so sleeper, and this is what it looks like. They're nice and hidden right down by our shift knob. Such a clean freaking install. So if you guys want to check that video out and see how to install those, I'll put a link on the top of the screen right here. Now, before we get way too deep into installing this fuel pump, I do want to mention one thing. As we're coming into a first start on the good old Honda here, I've been slacking on the SomethingCool business side of things, not gonna lie. But since I've been slacking so hard and I haven't had anything available for you guys, and I know I did get some questions about hoodies and hats and why the website didn't have any merchandise on it. As this video goes live, I re-released our previous merch drop just to clear out all the stock that we have left over from the previous drop. So the SomethingCool store, there is links to the products on my YouTube page, but you can also go in the description of this video and there will be a link to the SomethingCool website. All of the proceeds from any of the items on that website go straight back into building these cars because without you guys, I would not be able to do this. And that's pretty cool to say. So I just want to say thank you guys in advance. You guys are the best. Backwards hats back on. It's go time, boys. DW 340 liter per hour fuel pump. What's in the box? I've had this sitting here for like a year and I haven't even opened it, except for just to show you guys at the beginning of this video. We got the fuel filter sock for the bottom of it, O-ring, the little ear clip to hold the filter on, I'm assuming. And then we got our fuel pump, and then we got either instructions or a flow chart. I'm guessing the 340 liter per hour DW pump offers the highest flow available in a compact fitment pump. This thing will send your Honda Civic Si to the moon, and it's also compatible with E85. So if you're not running E85 in your Honda Civic, you should probably grow a pair and go get some, or else you're not making it to the moon. DW's getting real intense with these instructions. All DW fuel pumps are backed by a 3-year no-fault warranty. Well, it's been sitting here for a year. We only got 2 left, so we better get this thing running. First step, we're gonna yeet this seat forward because she's a coupe and we gotta get in the back seat. I'm just gonna pop this back seat up right now. Usually these back seats just got pop clips on the front, so I already yanked that side up. Now we're gonna yank this side, just like that, and this seat should come out. I love Japanese cars, dude. They're all the same. All right. Well, we took that out and I don't see a fuel pump, but I do see a harness going right here, and I am gonna safely assume that that is a fuel pump harness. So I think we gotta fold down these back seats or take these back seats out, one of the two. I'm thinking we should fold them down first. So let's do that. Well, I think I found it, and we gotta take the trunk mat out. So let's start getting this all pulled out. Very quick time lapse there, but we got her figured out, boys. The fuel pump is under that little plate right there, which is literally right between the back seat of the car and the trunk. So you do have to take that rear trunk cover off. Now that rear trunk cover just body clips into those two little small holes on the side there. Then we got two 12 mil bolts on the top of that plate, two Phillips screws here. Then on these back seats, right on the hinges, which are on the backs of the seats, you're just gonna peel these Velcros back. I like to just flip them over, stick the Velcro onto the carpet. That way it's not flipping in and getting in your way. There's one on the driver's side and then two on the passenger side. So you're just gonna get all those taken out so we can pull these seats forward a little bit. Because once you pull these seats forward a little bit, you're gonna see that down in there's a couple more bolts and screws. Am I missing something on this middle one? Do I gotta take this plate off first? Is there a hidden nut somewhere? Oh my God, there's a second bolt here. Get that seat out of the way and we are golden now, boys. Now if you take a look at this side of the plate here, we got two 12 mil bolts on this side and then all four Phillips screws, and those plates should come off and we can get at the fuel pump. Those are a little rusty, boys. I'm actually really surprised those didn't break. One plate, gone. Man, the things I do for a YouTube video. Let's be real here. Why am I in the trunk? It's so that you guys can have good lighting. And I'm breaking my back here for no reason. There's our fuel pump. Now, first step, getting this fuel pump removed is to get this connector off of here so we can get this plate out. So I'm just gonna squeeze this with a pair of needle nose pliers. Make sure not to squeeze too hard and don't break it. And just slowly work this thing off because it clearly has not been off in a long time. So we're gonna keep pushing down, lifting up, working this thing back and forth. There is a lot of dirt and dust in this connector. And I don't feel like replacing a fuel pump connector today. Just the pump. There we go. She's off and we didn't break it. Next step is gonna be getting the fuel lines off the top. One thing that I do like to do is vacuum all this shit out, because once you pop these two fuel lines off, you're gonna get fuel all over the place here, and there's a lot of crap in here that can be vacuumed out before it gets soaking wet and muddy. So just to show you guys in the car what this looks like and how crusty it is, that's 200,000 kilometers of untouched top of a fuel tank. Now, the way you get these fittings off is this guy on this side, you're gonna squeeze both sides of these two little tabs that are sticking out here, and then you just pull the line back. This one here, there's gonna be one of these green little tabs on either side. You're gonna squeeze both of those in with your fingers and pull the line off. So let's get this all vacuumed off and get those lines popped out. And then once we get those lines popped out, we are gonna put a pry bar against one of those flat parts, hit it with a hammer, and spin it counterclockwise to get this whole ring off of here. Now, when you remove the whole fuel pump hanger assembly, I highly suggest having a bin to just transfer this thing into right away so you don't get fuel all over the place. Also, in that time lapse we popped the fuel line off, obviously fuel is gonna spray everywhere. That's why you vacuum up all the dirt first, and you have a rag on site ready to go so you can wipe up the mess and try and absorb it as best as possible. So now, removing this hanger, there is a float on one side that has a fuel levels indicator on it. So you gotta be careful when you're taking it out that you don't hook that, which I can see it's on the side right here with this hose on it. So we're gonna kind of angle this out, and then you can see all the fuel coming out there. Oh my God, I'm just gonna let her leak for a bit because that's a lot. And then I'm gonna transfer into my little bin here. Now this bin's gonna get full of gas, but we could take this out of the car and work on swapping the fuel pump out outside of the car. Other thing I suggest, while you have the whole fuel tank open, just get a rag and cover that up so you don't have dust flying into the fuel tank. So to take apart this whole fuel hanger assembly, Picks are gonna be your best friend. First thing we are gonna do is we are gonna drop this entire lower bowl section. And the way we're gonna do that is by releasing these tabs right on the end here. There's 3 of them. So there's one here, if you rotate it, there's one on this side and one right here. Now, the most important thing when dealing with fuel pumps is do not wreck this level sensor or else your fuel tank level is gonna be so far off. Don't pull it outwards. It's okay for it to move up and down like this because that's what it does with your fuel as it raises it up. So the fuel pump does sit right here. It's these wires going to this connector. So we are gonna use a pick, pry these tabs open, and we are going to disengage this whole hanger assembly. The thing that I find the easiest is having multiple of these so you can actually take the pick and just shove it in there to spread it apart. And what I do is just leave the pick in there because I don't have 17 hands. Then when you do that, you can lift the whole assembly out of there with only 2 hands, like a normal person. And I just dropped all these picks in this gas, so I suggest that you guys wear gloves. Just a suggestion. Now this whole lower hanger should come off. We gotta disconnect this guy up top right here. Should be able to squeeze that tab and pop the 2 connectors down. And these are really hard to disconnect. But like I said, the 90-degree pick is your best friend. Push the tab with the pick and get her unplugged. You do need to pull this harness out with the black and yellow wire, or else you're just gonna be yanking on it. That's for your fuel level sender, so you definitely don't wanna break those wires. Be very careful with them. And now you can see this whole assembly's coming out with the suction hose and everything. Now there is a couple of clips on this whole lower assembly here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. As scary as it is working on fuel pump stuff, the plastic on these is pretty robust and it's pretty freaking tough. So don't be too scared when you're reefing on stuff with a pry tool. I didn't tell you that though, because if you break it, it's not my fault. But I'm just saying don't be scared. So now that we took that guy off, I thought we'd be able to drop this pump out the bottom, which we can. You just gotta push it from the connector on the top and now she should slide right out the bottom. Mint. There's our old fuel pump. Now there's usually an O-ring on this output hose for the fuel pump, and if you don't, you'll lose fuel pressure like crazy. So we're gonna have to transfer this collar and the O-ring, but for some reason it's not there, so I'm gonna guess it's stuck in this assembly. So we're gonna take a pick and check and see. Yep, I was right. Right there, you guys can see that there was an O-ring in there. So when we reinstall this O-ring is gonna go on the pump. So now that we got this all apart, let's start getting our DW pump set up. First thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna take these red caps off of the DW pump. I'm gonna get this collar transferred over from the factory fuel pump before I forget. Get that O-ring installed on that neck right above the collar. Pop this little plug off and we're gonna install our filter. Then this filter is gonna have a little green plug on it. You're just gonna wanna take that out. That's just to prevent anything in packaging from getting in there. Now we're gonna install this little filter sock on there and we gotta line up the plastic piece that goes over the tab, just like that. Then we also need to take this plastic piece off the factory one. Another thing is this factory fuel pump has a little rubber piece on the bottom here that must help prevent that sock from coming off. So we're gonna see if this can transfer over to the DW one. But first we gotta take this little tiny metal ring out of this bag. And this goes, oh, of course I drop it. This goes right above this little sock, which is a pain to install. Oh, I keep dropping it. All right, I ended up getting this clip pounded onto the sock off camera. I'll show you guys what it looks like nice and close up to the camera. You can see the clip right there. We got it pounded on. We just pried this sock up. I set the little metal ring on there, took a 5.5 mil socket, set it over top, and then whacked her a couple times with a hammer, got it on there, and then just use a flathead screwdriver to pound it on and even it out. Next thing that I did was all the plastic that was wrapped around the fuel pump that says DW 340 liter per hour, I took that off. I do not want to have that plastic in my fuel tank. Another thing I do want to mention is that this kit did come with like 2 O-rings in the box. They're both the exact same. You don't need both of them. If you have this collar on there, you only need the one. So now that we got that piece installed on there, I am gonna see if this little rubber piece will fit on the DW pump, which I'm thinking it's not gonna, but it might. Never mind, we got her on there. It most definitely does fit. So transfer that piece over. It looks like it's just gonna help to make sure this filter doesn't come off. And it also looks like it lines up the plastic tab on top. So I'll show you guys nice and up close. You can see the rubber grommet that is inside of there, and the plastic piece that locks the fuel pump in. It just slides over top, and then there is a little black nipple right there that will fit into a little slot on this plastic piece. And don't get intimidated by this, boys. This is my first time doing a fuel pump on a Civic 2, so we're going through this together. But we got our fuel pump 100% assembled. Now we just got to get some lube on this O-ring and pop her right back in the fuel hanger assembly. Now that we got that all on there, we are going to take this whole DW 340 liter per hour fuel pump and get her slapped into the hanger. We're just going to slide it in from the bottom. All right, all three of our lower clips are in. Our filter's on there good. Now let's see if this connector plugs in. Hopefully it does. Let's go, baby. That's perfect. Now we didn't even disconnect this hose. We can just pop this whole fuel hanger back together and get this whole top piece clicked back in. Oh my God. Well, that's why it's so tough. There is a slot for these lower wires to go through, and I definitely don't have them in that slot. I'm just pinching them. I don't want to break them. We got to pop it open again. This is going to be way tougher to take off this time because I got a wire in there. Oh, maybe not. I'll just pop this side open, get the tension off there. There we go. Now I got both wires in that slot. Now she should click down easy. There we go. All three at the same time, baby. Now we got to tuck all of our wires into the hanger. Little clip here, keep it nice and clean. And this upper connector here for the fuel pump is dummy proof. They only plug into one spot. So don't worry about when you pull them apart which spot you're going to. Sick, boys. We officially got a DW 340 liter per hour pump installed. We got all of our wires tucked back into that one little clip. Everything's nice and clean. As we close this, all the wires move freely. We didn't damage our float at all. Pumps in, we got the O-ring in, it's lubed up. We are good to go. So let's time lapse through getting this thing slapped back in the trunk. We'll get everything reassembled, and then we can prime the fuel system, make sure there's no leaks from these two lines, and then reassemble all of the seats and all the covers over top. And save your extra O-rings because these could come in handy one day. Everybody be quiet and listen. Let's make sure this works. We're gonna turn the key on and make sure the fuel pump primes and make sure there's no leaks. I'm curious to see if a 340 is actually louder than a factory pump. That was one prime. Oh, we can hear her sucking up all the air. She's working. And our fuel level sensor's still working because the level gauge is showing. And just to make sure, we got no leaks, baby. Honestly, I figured there would be no leaks, but it's always good just to double check. And also, these Phillips screws that hold this fuel pump on are so sensitive, do not go tight with them at all. Mint. The trunk is back together. Last piece to the puzzle. To be quite honest, my least favorite piece to put in. Only because lining up these seatbelt buckles kind of sucks. I gotta line up these outer clips. Snap. Snap. we just finished the last thing that we need to do before we get a first start on this thing. Now I can't fire the car up right now because obviously we don't have a base map on it. If we try and start it right now, we got a way bigger fuel pump and we got way bigger injectors on this thing. So we're just gonna flood out this engine if we try and start it. So we got our good old Honda Flash Pro here, which, being a Subaru guy, to my understanding, this is like the Cobb access port on steroids of the Honda game, I guess you could say. Because apparently with the Honda, you own the software, so you can tune on the fly and adjust whatever you want as long as you bought one of these. Which, to be honest, is a way better deal than an access port. Last thing I wanted to point out in this video is look at how damn good this CX Racing air filter fits. Honestly, out of everything in this kit, this air filter setup, which is like a knockoff HKS filter, literally fits better than my ETS kit filter did on my Subaru, which is kind of whack, but kind of funny at the same time. I'm not gonna get these tightened down though, because for the first start, we're gonna run this thing open turbo anyways. On our first start, we're gonna have to crack the oil feed, crank it over until we get oil coming out of the oil feed line for the turbo, prime the turbo. And then I'm just gonna leave this port open. I'm gonna get one of those little filter pieces for now until we can get a vented valve cover for this thing, because we could drill and port this valve cover and spend about 150 bucks to powder coat it and make it look pretty and drill holes and weld the bungs and everything like that. Or we could just hit up our boys over at Jack Spania Racing, use the code Daniel10 for 10% off your order, and get yourself a already powder coated red, black, yellow. There's a whole bunch of different colors on their website. You can get a already vented valve cover. So I gotta get one ordered up for this thing, but for now, we're just gonna start the car stock valve cover, this port open. Realistically, you could run the car with this port open and you just put one of those little filters on this port and it would just vent any excess crank fumes out, which would just occasionally, if you're pushing high boost and getting blow by, would shoot oil out of that filter and kind of get on the turbo and stuff. So ideally, we wanna run a catch can. So we're gonna get a valve cover with 2 vented ports that runs to a catch can. And I have no idea where we are gonna mount that catch can yet, because this engine bay is so freaking tight already. Running the battery right here makes it even tighter. We'll see what happens. I forgot that I did not put bolts in that. Oh my god. The bolts don't even fit. Why did I even have this on there? It hits the damn intercooler anyway. So we're probably not running a front batch bar on this thing because of that. But I don't know, we'll see. We might modify it to try and make it fit. I guess I should be standing in front of the camera. But then you guys can't see the cool little turbo back there. We'll do a wall sit like this. So that is gonna be it for this video, you guys. This is the last video before the first start. I'm so freaking excited. I hope you guys are excited too. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button because we got a first start video coming next. I think I've repeated myself 10 times, but in case you guys didn't hear me, we got a first start video coming next. So hopefully you guys learned something in today's video and learn how to install a fuel pump in your 8th gen Honda Civic. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. I will catch you guys at the first start video, baby.